Testing, testing. Can y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me? What? You can't hear me even now? Yes. Y'all can hear me now? Okay. James, you not coming through? James, you not coming through? I don't know what's happening. Let me just say, welcome everybody. Sorry about the glitches. I got kind of a new setup. I got a new monitor, at least. I got the same old microphone and the same old camera, but I got a different computer and a different monitor. So I hope that I don't have to send you the link, dog. You can just go into the James, you just go into the thing and do the thing on the thing.
I'm gonna send it to him.
You shouldn't have to.
This will be all right, man. I gotta send it to him on Facebook though.
You can send it to him, but he could just go to StreamYard and just right there, just jump on. He did it last time with Skip, but what do I know, man?
It's hard out here, man. These technology streets, man. What you doing, man? You sound like the old grumpy man.
Well, yeah, I guess I am. Middle-aged grumpy man. How you been, man?
Been cooling, man. Been trying to keep my sanity in these Atlanta streets.
Really? You got somebody to talk to?
Yeah. I got family here.
Good.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Kind for you to ask that.
Me? I just don't feel it all. I just do that alpha male stuff. No emotion. Sigma male type shit. So anyway,
well,
any updates?
You was in New York. You was in New York, right?
Yeah, I was in LA, Los Angeles. I flew back to Chicago, and the way that things were lined up, I was supposed to have 12 hours in Chicago before I flew to New York. But because there was inclement weather, my flight was delayed. So instead of having a 12-hour layover to pack and repack, I only had like a 5-hour layover that I had to fly to New York. And then I was in New York for like 3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you went on your makeshift wire tour?
Isn't that insane? That was impromptu. I got invited to like this little Nigerian wine party. There's this black-owned wine bar called the Happy Cork in Brooklyn. So it's a black-owned, and there was like people gathering to and some brothers from Nigeria, really brothers from all over and sisters. And he was just sitting there huddled in the corner talking to this other cat. And Shayum brought me over and introduced me. And I didn't know he was going to be there or nothing. And then 2 days later, I'm on 7th Avenue at my favorite bagel shop. And Marlo Stanfield was in front of me in the line. Completely, I must be doing something right, man. The ancestors, blessings on blessings.
See, you prayed for it to happen. It came to you. You ain't had to go do it.
And see, people think they know my business. I was in Carpinteria, but I flew in and out of Los Angeles. So even though I flew out of Los Angeles, so I left Los Angeles. I don't even know if Carpinteria has an airport.
James, what's up, man?
What up, Geechee? Oh,
is that a comment?
How you feeling? Man, picking out his fro. He picking out his fro.
Y'all picking out my face fro, man. You know what I'm saying?
Now I need to trim myself.
No, I'm trying to let mine grow out, man. I'm trying to let it grow back down here.
Really?
Yeah, my shit was down here before.
Yeah, I could never. I don't have that patience for the grooming.
What, you had a Kimbo Slice joint?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was about 10 years ago, man. It wasn't even gray. It was like a little gray patch right here. But
I don't have the patience. Glass is dirty as hell. But anyway, it's been on. We don't have. We can't be
What's the
long, but
topic,
we
man?
missed.
I
Huh?
don't get no. I mean, what's the topic, man? We just freestyling.
No, this is a topic Geechee introduced.
You talking about we just freestyling? You ain't see the title? Revolutionary politics versus and vanity politics.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it.
That's why we got the donkey and the panther.
I
So
normally get a run sheet though, but you know what I'm saying. It's cool. I guess
Yeah,
I can work
Diallo
with
been doing some weird stuff with the run sheet, man. I think he be deleting one of
it's
them
just
and then
your topic. You contacted me and was like, "Yo, we need to
no,
talk
no,
about
but still
this."
the run sheet though. Like whenever you if you update the run sheet, we can all be on the run sheet the whole time. But if you don't do it, then we sometimes we ain't gonna
Listen,
know.
you see my cup? I don't do no real work.
That's the problem,
I don't
CEO.
do no real work. I exploit the labor of other people.
We supposed to communicate on the run sheet all throughout the week so that
Don't
we
be asking me to do nothing. You don't get to this status by working. You get to this status by exploiting, extirpating the labor and the wealth of others. I told you, I got a whole new mentality. I've been hanging out with the wire.
I knew your critique of
So don't
capitalism
ask
wasn't
me to
real.
do work no more.
Damn. Well,
Trump is in
anyway.
office, and it's America first. And being a foundational descendant of slavery, I'm
Oh
done. I'm done doing any work. My ancestors did the work. I can just easy street, cut the
to
check.
Tariq won you over.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't know we needed a run sheet. I thought we had a good, um, such a good discussion. But I'm sorry. Going forward, you have my word as a black CEO. That I will have shit together next Friday. Oh, I
Mm-mm-mm.
won't be here next Friday.
What you doing
I'll
next
be out
Friday?
of town.
Oh yeah.
so 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 you gonna be here next Friday, Geach?
What next? Yeah, yeah. I think I could be.
I mean, because
I
to
think
be
I think
honest,
the
like
twenty.
with Diallo not here, we could do the barbershop talk thing, man. You know what I'm saying? Because
You
like,
said when he's not here, we can do that that way.
well, no, with you here, we could still, you know, do the rundown because you know y'all got all the information, man. You know what I'm saying? With me and Skip on, man, we just be, you know what I'm saying, just you know kicking it, doing the barbershop talk because you know
Barbershop
we
talk mental health and healthy.
yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool. I think we got well, Diallo said we got some good feedback. You know what I'm saying? You know, behind that.
Yeah.
So
And people putting me down, they said it's better when I'm not there.
nah, man, nah, you know what I'm saying? Nah,
I,
it's just
I
different.
showed you the comment.
It's just different. You know what I'm saying? Like I like hearing the you know, I like hearing the knowledge, man. You know what I'm saying? But with me and Skip on, you know, it's more interactive, it's more common man, I guess. But I don't see you as anything other than that either, though, Diallo. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm more common than any of y'all on here. Laughing, but who got better, more hood credentials than me?
Why? Because you just went to the Wire tour.
No, I
Yeah.
was raised in the projects. I was raised in the ghetto singing songs for called survival.
Come on, Master T or Mister T, whatever you call. What's Ice T? What's his name? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, I wanted to go to Ice T's dispensary, but none of my weed smoking friends would go with me.
Where's that?
And it was in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go there, but I figured I didn't want to go there and loiter because I know Ice T's a gangster, and if he saw me just standing around not buying nothing, that could have been a problem. So
You gotta take me with you next time, man.
Trenton, Jersey City, let's go.
You know what I'm saying? They named after me.
Oh, Trent, yeah, you got multiple names. You might be more hood than me.
No, look, I said, look, my friends call me Trent. My Facebook page is Trent because that's you know they're mostly my friends, but you know, and I talk crazy there, so you know what I'm saying. Everybody know me, you know what I'm saying, as that.
All right,
So
so I'd say since Geechee contacted me like 2 weeks ago and was like, let's talk about, and correct me whenever I'm wrong, as if I have to tell you to do that. You correct me when I'm right. So, but you said that you wanted to talk about party politics, the viability of a third party, right? Or whether we should have a black party, whether we should align with third parties, or whether we have to throw in our lot with the two-party duopoly.
No, 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 no.
I knew I
So I guess what I would, so you know the conference, what was it? The Gary conference and then the Philadelphia conference after that, where there's arguments that black folks came to Gary to talk about building a party, a third party, devoid outside of the Republican and Democrat, and then they all actually had the intention of, build have a party in their organizing structure. But Jesse Jackson got them like reaped back into the Democratic Party. So as people trying to take power or change their material condition, I'm trying to explore the conversation of like how serious can we be about revolution if we're not organizing in party formation to take power and to engage in governance. So I guess that's kind of like the context of why I wanted to have the conversation.
So that means going past organization, beyond the organization.
I
I
mean,
mean, I heard something about that earlier, right? Like,
parties is organizations, though, right? You would say?
well, I would, I'm thinking that the organization would evolve into a political party. You mean like, well, that's what I mean.
Okay. I mean, I think that I don't know. I think that's the question. Like, and mainly, and I think this is what me and Diallo talked about a couple months. Is like if we're trying to change people's material conditions, including ours, and we know what we're against, laying out policy, doing the policy work, being able to communicate the methods it takes to achieve a particular thing. I, I don't know that a lot of groups um, are engaged in that, and so that I think that's what I'm saying. Like,
Mm.
if your organization forms to a party, that means you're trying to go take power, and you have a particular you have particular methods that help you achieve having power. Because I think me and Diallo also talk about programs versus policy, and we get caught up in programs and thinking that's going to achieve revolution through programs and never really contest the state.
Yeah, well, I think we get confused because we had the Black Panther Party for self-defense, and we have the All African People's Revolutionary Party, which is a multi-state party. And then you have political parties, which um, act as parties in the U.S. Context. They act as in the context of fielding candidates, developing and advancing platforms, and then running and winning elections, which is a very limited scope for a party. But when you look at the Communist Party or the World Socialist parties, those parties do not limit themselves, their scope to winning elections, and do not limit themselves through advancing their agenda through the formal apparatus of the state. You have even anarcho parties that want to destroy the state. So I think when you talk to the average black person within the United States, they find it almost impossible to consider or to think of politics and to think of party formations outside of the U.S. electoral and governing system. Because even when you brought the subject to me, that's where I was thinking. That's where my mind went immediately. Is through the U.S. electoral system, and that is not the only source of power, and that is not the only expression of power within the United States. And I think I'll just say this, and I know people get mad at me. I think most in the arena, in the political arena, most parties outside of the Democratic and Republican Party, they play to play, they don't play to win. And it's vanity politics. It's vanity politics. It's not true party development. political subversion, network, and expanding. I don't see, there's no third party that I can look at, mainly green and socialist, communists, even the Libertarian Party or the right wing third parties that really act like they take themselves very seriously or really play to win. They just play to play.
So, question: when I hear you said "play to win," my mind went two places, and it only went here because how I'm about to say Nimps, but August Nimps was studying Lenin, Marx, and Engels, and especially in an undemocratic society, especially in a repressive society. They said the universal suffrage or electoral politics, parliamentarism, is used in that way as a thermometer to kind of like put your program out for the people, politicize them into a way, but also get to see the amount of your support for your particular social order. And so when you're saying they play to win, I'm thinking like August Nips, I'm sorry, Lenin in them, they actually wasn't playing to win a seat in the state. They was playing to win over the people so that they can take over the state. So whenever I hear you say playing to win, I'm wondering which win are you saying the parties are engaged in? Like trying to win electoral office or try to
Well,
lead?
I think we might be giving the communists a little bit too much credit. Because remember, at the start of the so called communist revolution, Lenin was in Central Europe sipping tea and playing chess in cafes. He literally had to get on a train and rush back to Russia in order to get to, because the people got out ahead of him. The I mean, the Communist Party took full advantage of a peasant revolt, and the
But
peasant revolt was a byproduct of the czarist incompetence and the erosion of the czarist state through several conflicts from the Russo-Japan War, World War One, and all of that. And so that party did not take over the state; they took over a movement that overthrew the state.
and you're talking about like the split of the party or the like because the
No,
party.
the split came after
Well,
the Menshevik Bolshevik conflict. But when
no,
you
no.
say,
What I'm saying is the split came after, but the split was already brewing, so there was already
yeah,
different sides. And it's important to because even talking about party, it's important to mention that Lenin isn't the party. Lenin was a part of the party. So even if Lenin is gone, the party is still engaged in a particular thing, and the side right between the Bolsheviks and the Menoviks, that the sides who in control might vary, and why Lenin would have to be moved out in the first place. But the yeah, I don't want to disassociate. I don't want to disassociate Lenin to be this thing by itself away from a party because the party is still engaged in a struggle even when Lenin is ousted.
yes, but okay, just to go to your original question though, um, I think when I say play to play in U.S. political, I'm speaking strictly in U.S. electoral politics. I'm talking about third parties that engage the U.S. electoral system.
Got you.
They don't play that game to win. They play to play.
Got you. Makes sense. James, I know you may be thinking, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm trying to think like how, because somebody said that the third party won't get no play in electoral politics in the United States. Uh, and if that's true, um, then the ground game, everything outside of electoral politics, the organizing would be important. Um, I mean, just as important also. So that could also provide a base also. So I'm just thinking how we would get the people on the ground involved in something like that. You know.
Yeah, I think that a third party could be a key player, and there are several choke points and vulnerabilities in the larger U.S. political system where third party could have real power, but they're not doing it to take power. They're doing it to protest or react to power, or like I said, it's vanity politics.
Yeah.
One of the most popular politicians in this country in the previous two election cycles was Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was a third party. He was not a Democrat or a Republican. He eventually became a Democrat. Another Ross Perot. Ross Perot was in a very powerful position back in the 90s and upended. And people say he's one of the key factors that prevented George Bush, the first George Bush, from getting a second term. So third party candidates, and there are third party candidates taking lower offices around this country every election cycle. The problem is the work to cultivate or develop a third party is not very glamorous. If you were doing the real work of third party, then you're not going to have celebrities, you're not going to be on CNN, and you're not going to have major names associated with you.
Right. So so James, if still you're still there, I want to respond to something, but then Diallo, I want to ask you a question, building off of where we kind of started and where we at. But James, I contend or I believe that people on the left can't not do serious ground game without being in the party formation, because party formation forces you to be able to chart out the path forward to achieve a particular social order. And when you do that, you're forced to do that. Like, these are the things that we are for, and you don't get stuck in the critique what we're against. Even when you just got programs, you're still kind of talking about what we against, but you're not talking about what we're for. So I contend that real ground game won't actually happen, or can't really happen seriously, without a party structure. And then I'm going to kind of go to this question, Diallo. Like, with that said, when we talk about third party and you talk about our conditions, does this mean now that we shouldn't be thinking about a black third party and looking at a more larger worker party? Like, what?
First of all, I think it would be absurd. Now, again, in the political context, in the electoral arena, it would be insane for black people to have a black party in a democratic system. There aren't enough black bodies, even if you could get 100% of the black electorate. So I think that there should be a black faction, I think there should be a black platform. I think black interests and agendas should be defined. But when it comes to advancing those through the US political system, especially on a national level or regional level, then we're going to have to caucus or exercise or push influence within another party. I think, again, a black party is what I call a political tantrum, or again, vanity politics. It's just not a viable formation. Just like I wouldn't, if we were Jewish and you said a Jewish party who represent less than 2% of the population. So, but if you were here in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, and you were like, we're talking about aldermen, we're talking about the school board, we're even talking about trying to advance someone to other positions, pushing to for the police superintendent or prosecutor, then I would say absolutely we could do this, because this city has a significant black population where we could independently, without negotiation, without compromising with any other demographic, in certain regions of this city, can move our agenda. But that wouldn't necessarily be a party. So yes, on that scale, in which I've worked on those campaigns in Kansas City, Missouri, where the National Black United Front took over the school board and the city council in various election cycles and didn't have to negotiate or work with anyone. But when you get beyond maybe mayoral level, I don't even think there's a state in this country where on a gubernatorial race where a black party would be anything other than a spoiler or, like I said, vanity or tantrum politics.
I I ain't got nothing to say. All I want to really say, if I did say something, is, bro, you need to write a book about like that, and grounded around like political tantrums, and pretty much the argument that we're not actually moving towards power. At its best, we are engaging like political tantrums, because I think it helps kind of like create a conversation between the liberal black folks who lodge into the Democratic Party, and also like the most pro, what you call these people, cultural nationalists or whatever, and even the people with the best analysis. Like, if none of them are actually figuring out how to come together to build power, and they're engaging in political tantrums, be it running up in the, acting like you have a some type of power from representation, or if it's saying like, I'm not going to engage in electoral politics at all, like all of it is shit. Like, all of it lead to people actually not building a party structure to build power. And I feel like that phrase is provocative enough to.
Yeah, and I think we get way too emotional about politics, and we ask things of the political system that are not within the political system's obligation or ability to give us. So before we fail to define politics in America. Bobby E. Wright said we've been in this country the longest and we understand it the least. So a lot of times people will come up and say and complain about what the government is failing to do or what the government fails to give them. And these are things outside of the government's peer view that we should not expect from the government or desire from the government. And even if the government came to us offering us these things, we should reject them. So what, and you'll be very, very, and most politicians, in order to run in America, because the United States is a functionally illiterate country, politicians have to come and promise you things and pretend to care about you. Like the first time a politician says, well, I care about you, I feel your pain, like Bill Clinton said, I feel your pain, or I'm a compassionate conservative, like George Bush. The first time they come talking that seductive shit, that Mac Daddy shit, you don't want your politician to be a Mac Daddy. Politicians are bureaucrats. And you want two things from your bureaucrats: competency and vulnerability. You want them to be capable of doing what is within the scope of their task, and you want them to be vulnerable to any backlash should they fail or betray. But we want charisma, we want them to be powerful, we want them to empower us. Competency and vulnerability. And those things you never hear about within black political discussions. I would rather have a candidate that was vulnerable to my community, should my community want to move against them, than have a powerful candidate that doesn't have to worry about or answer to us.
Um, James, I don't know if you got something again, but I'm gonna make this plug again. I don't even care if you ever read this book. Don't read the book. Don't try to go through it. But when you pick up the book, just deal with chapter 9 first, policy formation. Sit with it a while, and then let's start having a conversation, because I feel like everybody who ever had any good thing to say about Amos, who engaged Blueprint for Black Power, avoids chapter 9,
Why would they avoid chapter 9?
because all the feel good shit ain't in that chapter. That chapter
Oh,
mean
yeah.
like your ass want to build power. This is what you got to do to build power.
Well, this is what I was thinking, right? Like
It's cold, distant, and calculating.
I remember the one year, I forgot. I think Quinn was running for office here for governor. I think this was right after Blagojevich got got ran out of office or whatever. But he was proposing to um, bring good time back because they had took good time from the prisoners because something happened with a inmate that had got released. But anyway, they allowed the inmates, the county inmates, to vote for this. So I'm thinking that how do you get these people that's not involved, that's not engaged, or maybe not even interested, to I think something like a quid pro quo vote like that maybe could get maybe we can get some interest. But I don't know what would that vote be. But I'm just saying, like, in order to get people like that engaged, they would have to get something for they vote immediately. I think it wouldn't necessarily have to be like, building power where we putting in now to get something out later. You know what I'm saying? And I'm thinking that if we're trying to get not preach to the choir or go outside of the two-party system, like where else are we gonna, you know, find these people?
Yeah, well, I that's that thing that we got to get something from the people, and I know I'm setting myself up saying these things, but the truth is the truth. We take for granted what the government gives us. We get a lot of shit from the government that we just take for granted. And what's most tragic about that is a lot of the things we take for granted that we give for government, people have shed blood for. People have fought for. And because we take it as a given, we lose that shit. We lose it because we took it for granted. We weren't part of the struggles. Many of us were, I think, born well after many of these reformist policies came into being. And I see people shitting on public institutions and public resources instead of taking advantage of them. Just in that right there. Sometimes you're not voting to get something. Sometimes you have to vote to preserve what you already got. Again, speaking strictly in the arena of electoral politics.
Well, see, that's the thing, Diallo. Like most of those people are not engaged or don't even know history or don't even care. I would say don't even care to even understand it
But
to that point. But I'm thinking to get them engaged, that they would have to get something for their vote, and that's what I saw, because I'm saying,
Right.
I mean, people was voting. I was there. You know what I'm saying? The people was voting. You know what I'm
Voting
saying? Who
where?
did who didn't get it? I'm saying I was locked up
Which
at the time,
election?
huh?
Which election was that?
What? No, this was the governor's election for Illinois. This had to be like 20 20 2010 2011, something like that.
Oh,
And
Blagojevich.
I think this was around the time they popped Blagojevich ass, and we was looking for a new governor. I think he was
Right.
just like he was just like the interim, and then he was running on the fact that he would reduce the good time back to what it was. And so I'm just saying, like, he did that to garner votes. Now whether he was going to make good on that, but I'm just saying I saw the engagement, I saw the interest in the inmates that they was voted for, they voted for that. Now if it was something else, they probably wouldn't even care. But I'm saying it affected them, directly. So it was something that they, you know, was engaged in. I'm just saying maybe that's something that, you know, would engage these apathetic masses that really don't care about the vote or the electoral part of it, to get them engaged or something.
Yeah. Well, the non-voting population, a lot of our black leaders, past and some present, would encourage, because people suggest that voting, people always pushing the fallacy that if you vote, that means you believe in the system, or if you vote, you think they're going to save us, or if you're voting, that means you're not really down with the struggle. It's just so many fallacious positions have been promoted and articulated for more than half a century in relationship to voting. That or if you have a critique of the Democrats, then you must be a Republican. Or if you have a critique or criticisms of the Republicans, then you're a closeted Democrat or something. There's so much, stupidity related to the vote, and that's by design. I understand it's by design, and like I said, it's just amazing to me that people that there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of vulnerabilities and choke points within this political system, and we don't take advantage of it. And we see things happening to us, and see people and institutions that have power doing things to us, and we don't even conceptualize that we have the same capacity to do it back to them. So we always hear people talk about divide and conquer, and then we'll see political factions emerging amongst white folks, and we have no concept. We either sincerely pick one side or sincerely pick the other side, but we never entertain the thought of playing one side off the other for our interest. And things like that happen all the time. So the political maturity and political comprehension, and then you have a large segment of our community that says, they're about action and not talk. And people dismiss ideology, and people dismiss the academic component of the struggle as being scared or a waste of time, and we need to just get out here and take action. Literally advocating for action that has no ideological or even intellectual or conceptual foundation, just literally waving your arms in the air, looking busy.
But so I think because you say it that way, and you got to do hyperbole, you have to do that. I think people still might even miss what you're saying, because what I hear is like, so I guess was even sometimes confusing. Like, people will disagree with you in that space, and then they call themselves organizing. And you're like, what the fuck are you organizing? You organizing people into what? If you don't have that clear understanding, like, I'm just not sure what you're organizing. Organizing people to engage in Bible study, organizing people into sing a choir, it's not going to change your material
Right.
condition.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
you're organizing.
all right. I just had this one red pill idiot talk. Well, I had two discussions today. One guy is a red pillar, and he was essentially saying that the white man is the source of everything black. So he's literally saying like Pan Africanism, because I was articulating how they subverted black radicalism in order and push gangs and validated gangs. And he was like, well, the same people that push the gangs push the Black Panthers and Pan Africanism. And he's like, them pro black revolutionary niggas have just as much CIA backing as the cocaine, crack dealing, gangbanger niggas. And then I had another guy come to me talking about,
Motherfuckers
you
saying he
ideology is not important. We need tangibles. And he's literally like, we need food, clothing, and shelter before we could talk about ideology. And I'm like, okay, take me to these starving naked people, and that you're like, what are you talking about that you need food, clothing, and shelter? And I said, you're confusing biological needs with political, social, and cultural agendas. Nobody's denying the biological needs or trying to circumvent them, but you're acting like every person in the world's fundamental needs need to be met before you can start to do ideological, academic, and revolutionary work. And these are two black men who are leaders and activists in the community that have some of the most backwards. That's why there's so much work being done and so little being accomplished.
I propose that we understand that this is probably going to be a multiple part series. I don't know that we obviously have to call it the same thing, but I don't think we have enough space to even talk through these things. And I'm only saying that because I think we should drop a pin there and deal with a lot of those questions in the comments and finish the topic based off of those questions, and knowing that we're going to have to do part two and keep going, but because I feel like there's a lot said in the
Mm-hmm.
chat that, yeah. So let's go to the chat. That's my long way of saying let's go to the chat.
All right. Uh, the Black Panther Party wasn't oriented around vanity politics. Did anybody say that they were?
I think what he was Haas was saying. I think Haas misunderstood what you were saying as it relates to a party and contending for power. But there's things that the Black Panther Party actually did that doesn't get translated over to the 21st century. Not to say we need to recreate them, but for instance, they were called, as Diallo said, the Black Panther Party.
He's um
And here we go. They was called a party. So they had policies laid out. Today, people say Black Panthers, it. They don't talk about party. People who
can
try to
I
cosplay the Black Panther are not engaged in party power building work. They're building in program. So it's Black Panther Party programs.
I got a question.
Yeah.
When Bobby Seale ran for mayor of Oakland, did he run as a Black Panther Party member or did he run as a Democrat?
A Black Panther Party member.
No, he ran as a Democrat.
Oh, actually, they didn't have they actually didn't have their
He
party formed.
ran on the Democratic ticket as mayor, but just look it up. So the Black Panther Party, and also
He
this is
wasn't
another
registered
part
in
about
the
the
state.
Black Panthers
You're right.
y'all don't remember. Remember the wine sipping revolutionaries? The Black Panther parties were being criticized for negotiating and interacting with other segments of the community. They were working the Brown Berets. They were working with Asians. They had the Black Panther Party chairman go all the way to Vietnam to talk to Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Cong, and they were also maneuvering and caucusing with any progressive or leftist members of any political party.
Because they
No, no,
because they had policy.
they weren't doing vanity politics. Nobody said they were, but they were not an exclusively black party.
Right.
The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was a revolutionary organization that used electoral politics as one of its components, one of its tactics and strategies. And when it engaged the electoral system, they built coalitions
In the
and they were
yeah.
even willing to work within the dominant party at that time. So they weren't a vanity party because they weren't caught up in purity. Oh yes, so he didn't run as a
They was contending for power.
exactly.
Yeah,
So no,
and
they
and
weren't,
and
but they
and here's this really quick. I'm sorry. So I think that's kind of where the ball is missing. Where these people who are engaged in revolutionary work or serious work, they can lay out the policies or the plan that they can commit to achieve their end. So that kind of shows they're serious. But not only this, whenever you make policies that is good for black people, it will be good for the planet or the people. Like there's no such thing as black policies. All policies are going to impact everybody. So yeah, so yes, they are contending for power. They were contending for power in the methods that it took. Here we go, Marxism, a methodology, an experiment. They took a Marxist approach and they applied it to the U.S. context, and within that container tried to build power. And I again today I don't see organizations pulling that part of the Panthers. They're not saying the Black Panther Party, we are a party. In fact, as Diallo was saying, most people are totally repulsed at any type of electoral work, electoralism. And this is the other frustrating part that I become frustrated is these people claim to be Marxists and Leninists, and Marx, Lenin, and Engels' line has been extremely clear from then to now, the use of the electoral politics. And I just don't think people are.
because they want to be blacker than like Wise Intelligence said, they learn a few books, read a few truths, and talk about who they're blacker than. Yesterday was Wise Intelligent birthday. Shout out to Poor Righteous Teachers, Wise Intelligent. But you don't have to agree with me, but the math. What did Jay-Z tell us? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't
Numbers
lie.
don't. Let
It
me
ain't
lie.
enough for y'all.
Let me lie.
So unless y'all gonna get on Dr. Fubar's program and start making more black babies with these chocolate sisters, and unless y'all gonna turn around and put Panani before politics, it ain't gonna be enough of us.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? We got these ADOS and FBA types who don't want to ally with nobody. Think we can do it all by ourselves.
Well,
Listen,
they're allied with the white right wing.
tell
They're
them to put
allied
the
with the white
policies on the
supremacy.
put your policies on the table. Whatever you call yourself, what's the policies? What's the things that you are trying to achieve, and what? How do you want the social order to be? Fuck what you identify as. That's what I'm trying to get people to have more conversation around that. Like, yeah, oh, I want to achieve this thing. Okay, how are you gonna do it? What's your plan?
Yeah,
Lay
I've,
out, lay
I've
out,
I
lay out how you
developed
can say that again.
No, I was saying I developed two political platforms for two mayoral candidates. One was decolonize Chicago, and the other one was, believe it or not, I called it the pro-life movement
Oh,
as captured. And but anyway, wasn't nobody trying to hear. Nobody wanted to talk about advancing the policy. They just were running the because they were both Democrats. They were just running the DNC, and the local Democratic Party line.
yeah.
That's why I say we need to take over the Democratic Party.
Ah,
It might be least resistance.
Lord Jesus.
I don't think it's possible to take over the Democratic Party nationally, but it is definitely possible because so many black metropolis, so many black populated areas lean so heavily Democratic that black people can exercise, which is why most white people hate the Democrats. Most
Yeah.
white people in this country hate the Democrats because they feel that black people exercise too much influence within the Democratic Party for
I
no
know.
other reason. There
Mhm.
are white people who fully agree with the Democratic platform and would be Democrats. In fact, prior to the civil rights legislation and the Southern strategy, the majority of poor whites were Democrats, Dixiecrats and blue dog Democrats. And so the reality is, even though white people are under the false assumption that black people exercise too much power in the Democratic Party because they see our presence, they see all these black tokens running around. But the reality is, the Democratic Party on the local precinct level is extremely vulnerable to black capture. But we don't exercise that because the most radical black people are disgusted by the Democratic Party, rightfully, and they reject the Democratic Party. So most of the black people present in the Democratic Party are not leftists, they're not radical, and they're there to extract wealth and to elevate their own personal status. So even though the Democratic Party is quite vulnerable to black influence, places like St. Louis, Kansas City, Atlanta, here in Chicago, DC, it used to be New York, but New York's gentrification. But even like up in Harlem and certain areas in Harlem, certain places in the Carolinas, certain places on the West Coast, Bay Area, the Democrats are very vulnerable to black communities having undue
So
influence. But we never pimp that. We never do it.
tell me this, and I know this might not be. So this is not the same. So don't hear the same. Hear the. But do you remember when Robert F. Williams and his comrades, ex-military people, they pretty much took over NAACP in that region. I mean,
Yeah.
in that because of whatever. It was a small enough vulnerable reason for whatever. Now I'm saying you're suggesting something like that. Like there are vulnerable pockets of the Democratic Party that we could probably actually take, right?
Mhm.
Now, will that take over the Democratic Party? I don't know. I think that'll explode the Democratic Party because once this thing start becoming popular, right? So let's say, for instance, let's use hypothetical. Um, Barney, Georgia. We in Barney, Georgia. Democrat Party weak as shit. We take over them, right? And we're having our politics locally. I would think the next county and other people might start to do that as well. But then the Democrat, because it's way more, Democrat is liberal, whatever. What I think it'll cause so much conflict that it'll break the party as opposed to us taking over. And we would, but I don't know. Go ahead.
No, the Democratic Party is too large and too entrenched
Yeah.
for that to break the party.
Well, I'm talking
More,
about like
more likely
the
than
advance of
not,
that. The advance,
huh?
like let's say if we start with one, but we kind of grow, and let's say for instance we grow and we got like 20 or 30% of Democrat country like onto our politics. There still will be that other party because
Yeah,
I think even like Bolsheviks, Mensheviks, and
yeah.
Sandinistas and
It wouldn't
whatever.
be like that. No, no, no. It
Yeah.
wouldn't. It wouldn't be that because
Okay.
there's no armed guerrilla movement. There's no armed uprising.
There
So in the
might be
political
at that
arena,
point.
But
I'll tell you what the
hey,
Democrats, because Democrats have faced this before. The Democrats have gone just like the Republicans have gone through this before. Because the Republican Party was a right wing party. Then you had extremist far right factions, right? That were trying to bring the Republican further right. Remember the Tea Party? What happened to the Tea Party? It got absorbed. The MAGA movement,
Wait,
most
you
of the
talking about
MAGA
there was a
people,
black tea party? You talking about the black tea party?
no, I'm talking about the Tea Party movement that emerged in Obama's first
No,
term.
my bad. I thought you were talking
I'm
about.
glad you touched on that, Diallo, because I was just about to go there.
I just learned that there was a black part. There was a black tea party, but never mind. Go ahead. I thought
Right
you said
now,
no. They folded really quick. I think they
well,
were in
anyway,
Boston.
there have been several far right factions that have emerged that are much further right than the Republican mainstream. And they have infiltrated the party and get more and more influence, even though, like the MAGA movement, what the MAGA believes and what MAGA wants to do represent a minority of Republicans. The vast majority of the Republican Party do not align with the MAGA movement, but because, like I said, they're vulnerable, they have to go along with it. So the same thing has happened in the past. But here's the thing. That's when you are thinking about shit like prescription drug prices being affordable, lead getting out of the gasoline, student loan forgiveness. That's what you're doing that for. You're not doing that for revolution, for socialism, for decolonization. That's never going to be on the ballot. So the problem is when we're talking about these strategies and people are like, what I'm going to do all that for? They ain't going to free us. Revolution and freedom have never been on an American ballot.
So
Even things as simple as where people of power in the United States understand some things you can't allow to go on the ballot. Like, remember they put gay marriage on the ballot and it got voted down? Whenever they would put gay marriage, that shit would get voted down. And civil rights, even though we have all this civil rights legislation dating back to the 50s and the 60s, none of that shit ever went through the ballot. Remember, that shit
Diallo,
went through
Diallo,
legislation and
Diallo,
amendments.
Diallo. You know what this taking me to?
What?
When somebody, so somebody, you said this before, and a few people thought they thought they had you, and they thought you were beneath them based off of what you're saying, but they didn't understand what you were saying when you said capitalism and imperialism ain't on the ballot.
Right.
Like they wasn't able to sit with that, but they was thinking like, oh well, you and it's not that you didn't say that's the primary contradiction. You just say, my nigga, in order for you to get there, there's a
Right.
if you want to actually end capitalism, imperialism, then this is the, the logical path. You got to be
You know what was on the ballot? The
uh,
water quality of Flint.
yeah,
hey,
privatize
Now,
utilities.
now,
hey,
the water
Diallo.
quality of Flint was a political phenomenon. It wasn't even an environmental phenomenon. So, and what a lot of these so-called revolutionaries like to think, I don't give a shit about insulin and the price of insulin. I don't care about mercury contamination. I don't care about opening up selling oil rights in national forests. I don't give a shit about because I'm talking about freedom. Ain't none of that gonna
No,
free us.
right
But
now,
then you go to people and say, "Hey, join this revolution." As you go about saying the day-to-day concerns that you have are not fucking relevant. I don't care how much your grandma's insulin costs, but I want you to come be on the front line of my movement. And one does not cancel out the other. You can't go to any revolutionary organization and somebody says, well, you voted for this, you support these particular government policies. You can support government policies at the same time you want to overthrow or subvert that same government. I don't understand that disconnect.
Hey, so this without something gonna have to give inside this Democratic Party if we're gonna infiltrate the
Wait, slow
Democratic,
down, slow down. Not the whole party.
just the black,
Start at a place where you can take.
just the black areas, just the. But
No,
I'm
not
still
even the black areas. Not even that's not what's being said. Not even black areas. The place that you can take power in. The place that you can actually wherever the Democrat, and I'm not saying I'm believing this method. I'm just saying what it's saying. Wherever the Democrat Party is weak at and not like moving, you can take them. Example: when I used Robert F. Williams, he just got out of the military. He went back to Monroe. Democrat Party was having some weird stuff going on. I mean, I'm sorry, the NAACP was doing some weird stuff. They joined the NAACP because that was the most radical left space that they felt was in that area. And then they started trying to implement some radical ideas. Leadership was already fizzled, and they end up becoming the leadership of that chapter there because it was weak there. So doesn't matter. No, doesn't matter. White, black, green, blue, whatever. Like, where's a place that you can actually take power using that apparatus or using that already structured party is what I
Yeah, it's
think is.
called capture. It's called agency capture.
Yeah, yeah.
You begin to govern the thing that was trying to govern you.
and I'm saying that so those people that were originally there, which way they moving, left or right? I think they moving right.
What it's worse than that. They're stagnant.
Mhm.
Because I know
So
because I'm
most
saying
of these
right because the Democratic Party is already moving right, right? Because they got to get those votes. They got to get those conservative votes, right? So they got to move.
The
I
national
mean,
party. The national party
is moving right with the Republican Party. So I'm saying, but even those little pockets of weak Democrats, I mean, they still got the same politics. Man, and I'm saying if 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 those are if those people are moved out and brought in different politics, like what are people going? They going right.
you mean in the NAACP?
Yeah, or just the Democratic Party,
But
wherever the
but
Democratic
but
Party is weak at.
that's not relevant to the agenda of the people taking over though.
right, and I think so. I think right, left, right, left. Like, I don't think that we are actually even clear what the fuck is right or left. So even when I back to BLA, Black Liberation Army, Black Panther, even when they did that little ass graph, they still had policies under that motherfucker, or even principles under what's left. When they was like the left is a socialist, blah blah blah, but it kind of says like what it will look like. These are all the things that it look like on the left. So before we start talking left, right, we got to be like, okay, this is my policy, and then we should be able to determine if we left, right. Because I think we just kind of saying it, and
No,
I'm just
I agree, Geese,
yeah.
because I don't think people understand where they fall at on the political spectrum either until you really start,
I
until they really start answering how they feel about these things.
But when you look at surveys, right? And I've done some of these surveys myself. Most Americans are politically left. They're socially, culturally, ideologically right. So meaning that these racist motherfuckers, if not for racism, they would be voting for a lot more progressive. So when you demonstrate to them and you show them list of policies and say agree, strongly disagree. When you talk about healthcare, when you talk about public funding, when you talk about reduce military aggression, lowering the Pentagon budget, the vast majority, over almost 80% of Americans support single payer healthcare. But if you ask those same Americans that say, well, do you support government health care? They say yes. But if you say, do you support Obamacare, nigger medicine? They say absolutely not. And so how it's framed. So the vast majority of people, and most white people, vote against their economic interests because they've been convinced that black people are receiving an undue, unjust share of the spoils.
That's a fact.
So in reality, saying, well, if we take over the Democrat and start making the Democratic Party, our local Democratic precincts more progressive and fielding more progressive candidates and laying out a more progressive political platform, everybody's going to run to the right. No. If you look at right, the further right you go on the political spectrum, the more they fucking lie. Like Obama's a fucking liar. Obama's a liar. He lied his ass off. But Trump outpaced him in lies. Trump told more lies in his first 30 days of his administration than Obama would tell in a year. Because the further to the right you go, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. They have to tell more lies because the general public doesn't support the reality of right-wing politics. And most white people in this country would be progressive, liberal, everything if they only thought, well, only white Christian heterosexuals are the only people that are going to benefit. When it comes to white Christian heterosexuals, they want everything and they'll support anything. But as all these other unworthy, ungodly people are getting benefits too, that's when they start voting down all this progressive shit.
And Diallo, how much do but see, I think religion plays a lot into how these people look at these things, because they may be socialists until it affects their religion, and until it,
Nah,
bump heads with their religion.
Give me
nah.
a component of the Christian dogma that contradicts socialism.
Listen, I can give you.
Uh,
You said
Go ahead.
contradiction or advocates for it?
Contradicts it.
None.
Exactly. These motherfucking right-wing Christian motherfuckers go to church and hear "Love thy fellow man," "Turn the other cheek, be nonviolent," "Fish feed the multitude with fish
Acts,
and loaves," and
the
then they
first
hear all
chapter of
this
Acts,
progressive woke shit,
yeah, the first
you
chapter
know,
of Acts, the first
and
chapter of
open
Acts after Christ.
and welcome the stranger,
Yeah,
welcome the foreigner,
yeah.
and then they go vote again. So no, it's not actually their religion, but again, Christians don't read the fucking Bible, or they stop being Christians. So
Check. Read Fidel in Religion if you ever need to really sit with what Diallo just said. But really quick, Diallo, and I know we got to go soon, but this is why I feel like this has to be a series, because also what I did text you was, yo, maybe we should have a conversation about how most of the race wars or riots are started by white unions striking, the capitalists saying, get y'all ass out the way, bring the strike breakers in, black folks, workers, and they need their job back, and there's a fight. But there's a larger thing that's happened there, and I just don't think that we've ever like sit with what the fuck and why the fuck, and we just black, white. But go ahead, Diallo.
right, yeah, I agree. But I can't remember his name. I went to this academic conference, and there was this Appalachian mountain hillbilly white boy that was giving this lecture on how racism hurts white folks. I was the only black person in there, and how white folks acting racist has screwed them over left and right. But yes, we used to be the original job to people coming to take jobs. That was us. So
They're
yeah,
gonna steal our jobs. Yeah.
it is so true. But I guess let's run. But yeah, this might have to be electoral politics is about resource distribution or resource in a way
or
that
or it's a way to politicize the mass, or right. So Diallo, this is a another thing that's a connection. So it's it's also a tool to break people's ideas about uh, break people's ideas that are not conducive to society. It's a to break people's from their ideological confusion, and so it's going into arenas or it's the apparatus to do that. So back to the Diallo thing. I think first meeting Diallo, I used to put him on panels of people who are hella confident about a topic but don't know nothing about it, and Diallo Diallo was way more clear on it. And before the people, a large people were watching, Diallo is shredding these ideas apart in front of real time. And most of the people who are watching, because of their whatever shit they got going on, they would never be in that type of conversation. But for them to not be in that conversation, to see their ideas shredded, it makes them more open to actually think more critically. So electoral politics also could be a tool or apparatus to politicize people more than it is, but not saying more than, but also and to be able to distribute resources and policies and or that
Harm
to
reduction as well.
say that again.
Harm reduction,
Harm reduction. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
which is another dirty word to leftists.
Well,
Uh,
I think it'd be used conflated, but yeah, I get you.
the left is afraid to take power. I think many people are able to wear that left label who aren't actually left. But I also think that it is a valid criticism of the left, as I am a leftist, a far leftist extremist.
The aspiring left.
And I think we care more about being right than we do about winning. So I think that is a valid criticism.
But how
Like
we
the
gonna
word
win?
social.
How
I
we
don't
gonna
think.
win if we ain't right within? And being right within is having a party.
What you know about that? That's before your time.
Crazy, bro.
Uh, Socialism. I don't think we need a new word for it.
No, again, I'm telling you, we dog. What do we have to do? Maybe we're gonna do a chapter 9 read and conversation. And I promise you, at some point, as Diallo was just trying to explain, most people bodies and thoughts and desires is what one would call socialism. But because there's ideological confusion and some wild shit, people are emotionally attached to something, a pigment, a party, a people, and but yeah, I just
Yeah,
don't think we
I
have to
think.
change a word to understand. Go back to epistemological and ontological. Ontological truths are there, and so you don't have to change a word or a meaning. But what you're trying to say, this is verifiable things. These verifiable things I want to see. This social order I want to see. Agree to that, and 9 times out of 10, your ass gonna come up with what we call socialism.
Exactly. Why black people can't have a bipartisan party? What is a bipartisan party? I don't even know what that is because if you have a bipartisan party, that means you don't have a party. That means you have a party that goes in either direct that stands for nothing. I
Man, man, listen.
I don't even.
Bipartisan and filibuster, we burying both of those words.
Okay, filibust ass. Putting revolution over. Well,
I think that was
if
a
you
tongue in
were
cheek.
vote, first of all,
That was a tongue in cheek thing that people
okay, good, because revolution ain't on the ballot. Nobody in this world has ever voted themselves to liberation.
That's impossible. I mean, anti-capitalists that fear socialism all the time.
Then what? Then you could you ask them what economic system they seek to embrace? Then
and that also what means they're not anti-capitalist. That would be a misnomer, right?
right. That's like I
See,
meet
people
misogynists
don't
that love
understand
women all the
socialism.
time. Like
People don't understand socialism as an economic.
no, they don't.
They look at it as a handout. They don't look at it as an economic system. They look at capitalism as an
I
economic
mean, I don't
system.
know how is that possible.
No,
It's a
listen to the
production.
listen.
It's a production. It's a way in which you order production and social relations. It has nothing to do with handing anything out.
Look,
It's
to
produced and
to you academics, yeah.
no,
But
don't even say that.
to,
That's not that has
to
nothing to
us
do with
on the street,
academics. Like
to
I
people,
listen, this is you can go to your grandma in back in the country and they can articulate policies and ways of caring that they share, and it has
And can,
nothing to do with academics. A baby can verify.
I, but that's what I'm saying. They don't identify. They don't. I'm people not doing definitions, bro. People not
I ain't
looking
talking
at
about
sharing
definitions.
as socialism. They not looking at
Tell
sharing.
me this, James. Can people tell the difference between dirty water and clean water?
Most definitely.
All right, then. That's all. That's all. You, that's all you need. That's all you need to understand socialism. You like you ass like clean water. Me too. You too. Yeah, all of us like like clean water.
Yeah, but they don't see that as socialism.
We that's so.
But
All right,
because
this
what I'm
real.
trying to say is, get you
I
once
hear
that
no.
word.
Trust me. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But this is what I. This is why I'm saying the importance of party, and this is also why I'm saying, and I send it to PDF. Read Fidel and socialism. When Fidel, because of the heightened state that Cuba was in, took power, they were able to advance armed struggle. So armed struggle happened first. But immediately after that, the policies came out. Fidel laid out the policies. He started confiscating land, nationalizing schools. And people was like, you like free health? I mean, provided health care. You want to be able to go to school. Yeah. Oh, what's this? Oh, this is socialism. That's how that's how people are gonna be introduced to socialism. Majority of people are gonna be introduced to socialism. Not saying socialism, Marxism. Da, 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 da. They're gonna be introduced to them by your plan for their ass.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Right on. Right on.
I agree with this. Yes, I can deal with a black Democrat, but I don't fuck with black Republicans. I don't think there's any redemption there.
Not even Candace Own. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, name a black Republican that's worth engaging.
I don't know. I would have to. I don't even know.
So yeah. Anyway, I think we
Mia,
got through most of them, huh?
wait, is Mia Love dead?
Who?
Did she die?
Who?
The Mia Love, the first black lady from
Oh,
Utah.
Jamia Love. I thought you said Nia Long. I said, what the hell?
I said Mia Love or whatever her name is from Utah or somewhere
Hey,
out there.
Brittany, y'all need to stop. Andy, be nice.
What?
They
No,
talking
cause
about you asked them to name something, and this is what they doing. Name a black Republican.
I don't know of one. Yeah, Thomas Sowell's a piece of
Y'all
shit.
better stop
Stupid
doing that.
motherfucker.
Don't do that. See how disrespectful y'all are? Y'all must be from New York. Y'all don't do good jokes. I think Thomas Sowell the Antichrist if you really want to talk about some shit.
Hey, white boys love him though. Let the white boys have him.
That's why he the Antichrist. He gonna lead us into some wild shit.
Every time, I can't tell you how many fucking arrogant ass white boys for the last 20, 30 years. Every time I'm somewhere public and it's a mixed group, some white boy gets up Thomas Sowell like he gives them to permission to be racist, to be crackers. This is funny. Where people are like, I don't support capitalism or socialism. I'm not left or right.
yeah,
Black people, there are a lot of black people who claim to be engaged, conscious, and well read and take appropriate stances who
Hey,
think
but
they are exempt.
Diallo, but they just did
that's
a
that
double
religion
entendre.
coming through,
They
man. That's that
they did a
religion.
double entendre. They said they're not left and they're not right. You're
Right.
right. They aren't right. They're wrong.
Well, let
Double
me tell you
entendre.
this.
They
If you are not
neutrons.
left or right, that means you are neutral or status quo.
No, that means you're
And if you
wrong.
are neutral or status quo, that makes you automatically a right winger.
Hey, on the street when you're a neutron, that means you don't belong to nobody. That means anything could be done to you.
What?
But in the political arena, this is a right wing capitalist society, racist right wing society. And if you don't take an ideological, political, social, cultural stance against it, that means you're going with the fucking flow.
Yeah, I've been rapping all day and nobody catching my bars other than the chat.
What you
Diallo,
talking
you
about?
ain't caught it. That's why you need to stop listening to Ice T. I think this is why right here. because you can't appreciate bars because your ears so trained for iced tea shit.
Hey,
Ice T
straight
got
up, JM,
balls.
do you know what I'm talking about? Especially if you're from Chicago, a neutron gets no respect.
I've been a neutron my whole life,
Jimmy
and
Neutron.
my hood loved me.
Not, not the
Seriously, my hood loved. Shout out East Hills Village, 75th Street. Let me tell you something. My hood, they knew. They knew.
hey,
The G's and the OGs looked out for me in my hood. In my hood, you know, if you stayed neutral, you played ball, you did books, you went to school, you was a good dude trying to make it. The hood didn't bother you.
well, yeah. In that case, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's you know that holds true
I mean,
throughout,
there's certain clothes
throughout.
you couldn't wear,
But
certain parties you weren't allowed to go to, certain little
but
hood privileges
but
you didn't have. But if you stayed in your lane,
but
thank you.
hey,
What you done, Philip?
look,
A chat full of iced tea fans? I don't know what the
Everybody
hell I'm
respect
doing over here.
ice.
What the hell am I doing over here?
The
What y'all
ice,
doing?
you don't ask. The ice just bogarts.
man, Ice T got the coldest album cover of all
Oh, we got a
time.
village boy in the chat. Village boy, we got a village boy in the chat.
Listen,
Told
listen.
y'all.
Hey, but I'm saying, Diallo, okay, you said you was a village boy, right?
No, but that was my
You was
neighborhood.
affiliated. You was a
Huh?
friend of the village boys, right?
I didn't put in no work. I
You
didn't
don't have to,
I
cause
never jumped off the
look,
porch.
look around here.
James, stop
If,
trying to get that man indicted, man. What you
no, no,
doing,
no,
bro?
no, 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 no. I'm just saying. Look, even if you're a neutron, if you a friend of the affiliates, you get a pass. But if you
Right.
just somebody just out on your own, you don't know nobody, you ain't affiliated with nothing, man. Look,
Let me tell you, the G's in my hood, if you was messing with a neutron, somebody that didn't have no name, didn't have no status, then that made you look like a punk. Like, why you out here tripping off of somebody who ain't got no threat to you, who ain't imposing on your territory, who
That's
ain't
moral
taking over
thugging.
your clientele, ain't trying to move no product, ain't doing nothing. If you was from my hood and you were out here harassing neutrons, you know, dudes trying to go to they didn't call, they weren't that nice. They used to call us lames. If you out here, you know, bucking up on lames, that would reduce your own status. Nobody wanted to hang out with the dude that was harassing the cats that
You
wasn't
know,
no,
messing with you.
we wasn't
you know
nobody
why? You
punking
know
them.
why, Diallo? Because back
Wasn't,
then
wasn't
they had
nobody punking them.
because they had policies back then, Diallo. You can
Yeah,
Wasn't
well,
achieve
nobody
shit when you
punking
I
them.
got
can't speak
policies.
for now. You're right. You're right. I went through my hood, you know. I went to my old neighborhood a few years ago, and Rip told me, "Man, don't fucking go over there. What you doing over there?" So I can speak. I'm speaking from '92 back.
Yeah,
Anything
Yeah.
happened after
See, Rip, no.
'92, I can't speak on.
because I came in
Huh?
the late '80s, and I'm telling you, shit was wild in the late '80s,
Rip,
Yeah,
no.
'80s,
my hood had
'90s.
specific rules. You could keep you could really navigate my hood and be by and large left alone. I wasn't wearing no Jordans. I wasn't wearing no starter jackets. You know, I wasn't wearing no fucking truck jewelry.
I was coming into the change in my hood, so
See, I was wearing African medallions.
I ain't get
Dude,
to
ain't
live.
nobody
I
gonna run up
didn't
on
get to
you
live
for
that.
an African medallion.
Well, that's my point. Neutrons got left alone.
Yes, yes. Which is a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
Not no more. Not no
My
more.
dad called it invisibility. I practiced. I got through the hood because I was invisible.
Mm-mm.
But you
Mm-mm.
was food. But neutrons is food for some.
Yeah, but that's just the other lanes though. But then that's
Now,
when you had G's to look out for you.
now it is. Now it is, and I'm
But
sorry.
but
Now it is.
in this sense of being a political neutron, you fall to the right and you ain't of no use.
Exactly. Got to pick a team, pick a side. Or Howard Zinn, you can't
Yeah,
be neutral on a speeding train.
yeah. Listen, time to go to bed.
Yes. Let's wrap it up. Did we get
So,
to all the questions?
yeah. So I don't think I don't think we have to the segments. I don't think we have to do them all back to back if we want to kind of lay it out and do other things in the middle. Because I don't want to be talking about this for 2 months, but I do want to. I feel like we should give some good
Yeah.
work to it.
Yeah, and I do think that there should I don't think there's necessarily necessity to build a black political party, but we do need a black political agenda,
Whew.
and we can take that agenda wherever it is best served. And every politician, regardless of party affiliation, but more likely Democrat or some third party, regardless of party affiliation, we vote according to who best serves our
Yep.
interest in that election cycle. Cold, distant, and calculating.
Absolutely.
That should be us in politics. And liberation, revolution, black power, that exists independent and outside of the US electoral politics.
And I think that's where we're gonna get the sleepwalkers. I think
Yeah.
I think that's where we can get them engaged. Because I don't think none of them is really concerned about electoral. I think they would probably be more concerned if they could do something outside of that on the ground that makes them, feel, you know, give them some type of belonging, man.
But we as revolutionaries, we have to be strategic and charismatic enough to win the people who only vote for egg prices.
Yep. Single
We
issues
can't
got
be
to be
above
kicked in.
propaganda and manipulation.
But okay, but look, that's a small percentage because what Skip said the other day was like the people. If you take the people that voted versus the people that didn't vote, that's not. It's more people that don't vote than do.
Yes.
So it's like, okay,
The
you do
majority of
got to.
the electorate stayed home.
And even if you call it apathy, rather they don't believe that any of them can win, or they just want third, but there's not a third option. Like they still got to be won over to a particular thing. So them not voting don't mean they're not into particular policies that help them.
But I agree with that, Gucci. But I'm saying we got to get to them. How we get to them?
I,
How we get
Uh,
them?
oh no,
uh,
why I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna answer with a demonstration, right? Remember, we just started talking about electoral politics, right?
Mhm.
After I say, no, watch this. Start talking now,
what?
James. Talk. Keep talking.
Oh,
That's not using electoral politics. All right, now talk. That's using that's how you use that motherfucker.
listen, listen. Like I said, we are not above propaganda and manipulation. So we don't just say, well, only the people who can be won over with a rational argument are the only people we're going for. And that's why people get on me. Why you always name calling and shit? I think mockery and belittlement by any and all means necessary. This is smash mouth football. This is elbows and shin kicks. Politics is dirty, and we can play dirty when it's in our interest to play dirty. I just think many of us who claim we don't love the system, we don't trust the system, fuck the system, many of us are enamored by the system. And we true believers. The people who say I ain't voting, fuck that shit, those are the people who really believe in this shit.
I
Because
want
me,
us to
one of the
change.
major things I voted for in the last gubernatorial race was a moratorium on the death penalty. You know, I don't support the death penalty in any condition, any way. And one of the candidates was for the death penalty. One of the candidates was going to re-implement the moratorium on the death penalty and move
Support.
to abolish. That alone, sometimes that's all you're voting for. Other than that, there's no distinction.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So, and do you think my struggle ended when the moratorium was implemented? No, the struggle continues.
All
So
I
when you're
know,
going into the ballot box, you need to be very clear on the very particular, and don't be asking for shit that ain't on the ballot. That's some shit that'll get your ass whooped. Remember, you a little kid, you go ask for something that you know ain't in the kitchen, and you get cursed out.
listen,
Don't ask for shit that
all I
ain't in the
know
kitchen.
is I said non-reformers reform to some radical militant revolutionaries over here, and them motherfuckers lost it.
Cause they pure. They're pure. Quit hanging around them pure people. Quit
I ain't
trying to
trying to
show
hang
up.
around them
Them
motherfuckers. They try.
superior and pure
Listen,
vanity. Look how beautiful and golden and unbesmirched I am. Because politics is something about is a righteous thing.
oh
Politics is
Lord
something
Jesus.
only you only do, and you only vote for the most upstanding. They looking for a savior. They're not looking for you vote for bureaucrats. And like I said, the two main key qualities you want in any bureaucrat is vulnerability and competency. Who's most vulnerable to you and your community, the constituents, the people you represent? Who's most vulnerable and who's most competent to carry out whatever can get done?
That's a fact.
Point blank, period.
Listen, man.
And in 90% of elections, more than half the ballot isn't even voting for a political party or a politician. I was voting. I had 3 election cycles where there were taxation policy, where you were doing literally direct governance. Hell, I went and voted to implement a bag tax and a plastic straw ban. And is that going to liberate us? No. But I don't want plastic bags and straws all in my fucking area, in my community.
Listen, bro.
Fuck.
I know
Do
how you gonna put
politics
the
right.
bodies on the line.
And get out your flesh. Get out your feelings and get out your flesh. Get out your feelings when it comes to politics. Cold, distant, calculating. You vote for harm reduction. You vote for research management and research extraction for your community. Harm reduction, resource extraction, and subversion. Meaning you're trying to stop other people from doing shit.
And then what? And then after you cast the ballot, then you start doing. You got to vote.
After you cast a ballot, you just got to go home and sit because you're not a revolutionary anymore.
Oh.
After you go vote, you got to go burn all your books. You got to go home, leave whatever community organization you're working with. Just give everything up. After you vote, that means you go sit and put your hands because you've given everything because you believe
After
in the
you vote, you go home and pray.
No, you vote with them feet.
So yeah, I vote in the election. They're gonna have to fucking vote for everything. And don't vote because your ancestors didn't die for the vote. Our ancestors died to open up space and give us maneuverability and win concessions.
To refine our tactics.
You don't vote because your ancestors died to vote. You vote because it's part of your larger strategy for justice and liberation. And and sometimes you're only voting. Do I want to fight against the system with lead in my water, or do I want to fight against the system with no lead in my water? Because that's the only thing that you got coming. I don't even think that's a hard fucking choice.
That shit easy, bro. That's because your ass ain't talking policy. And it's time to go, man. Our policy is we leaving y'all ass for the night.
Man, the girl's gonna wait. The girl's gonna be there when you get there, Geechee. You always rushing out of here every Friday night.
Man,
slow down, man. Settle down.
I'm trying to marry, boy. I'm trying to get married.
Is that what we doing, man?
That's why the women running from you.
I'm trying to be like Diallo.
I feel bad. I need to put you up on game.
Nah, I don't want your game.
You want to get married, the first thing you got to do is be like,
Linda, listen. The last time you and your damn wife give me any type of advice when y'all ain't been not married for 40
you was listening to them females. I wasn't giving advice. No, I didn't say nothing.
Cause y'all, no, both of you.
I told you to come over here in the manosphere. I wasn't. I was just sitting there.
Both of y'all ain't been single for at least 30 years.
You were listening
so y'all don't know the game no more.
Give you advice. I was sipping my latte. I didn't tell you nothing. Only thing I told
you, y'all was giving me the extreme
That's
stuff.
The only thing I told you that day.
And guess what? That person too, my sister, she ain't been single in 30 years either. So all 3 of y'all last
I told you, listen to these females, man. I'm trying to get you fresh and fit, man, and get you ready. And don't admit that you're looking for a wife. You hold that back. Just keep that buried. Just say I'm just out here, I'm just trying to see what it do, see how it go. I'm telling you how to attract a woman, but no, you don't want to listen.
Hey, Brittany, that's funny. But man, Geechee, you know what I'm saying? What you need to know, bro?
I ain't need nothing to know from none of y'all. James gonna be single for the rest of his life as Mango, and Diallo got his damn soul meat.
Hey, man.
I don't have a soul. I'm an atheist. I'm secular.
Being single don't mean,
bro. Your soul. The more and more you hang around Skip, the more and more we can see your soul.
I'm soulless. I'm biological.
The Lord is about to get you. He got you on his hook.
I just have a central nervous system. Nothing behind that.
Hey, man. I'm gonna be quiet, man. I ain't gonna say nothing.
Y'all ain't pulling me in this thing no more. Good.
All right. When you're ready for help, humble yourself and come ask forgiveness, and I'll help.
I think I'm all right.
All right, y'all. Next time. Oh, let me put the banner across the bottom. Go like, share, subscribe. Make positive contributions to the just aspirations of your community and the African World Order channel. We trying to grow it. We trying to big it up. We trying to make it happen, captains. And I appreciate both of y'all brothers, man.
Likewise,
And like
man.
I said, whenever y'all ready, put y'all up on game. I got a program, $99.95 a month, and I will put y'all through my alpha male marriage program.
Y'all sound like 69 Reasons Why the World Gonna End in 69. They sold so many books, but they don't know what the fuck they were talking about.
I can write my own.
Y'all want the program? If y'all want it, man, y'all have y'all Newbie and Queen within a year, guaranteed, money back, guaranteed.
Diallo selling relationship advice to get you women with shea butter with red dye in it. So
yes,
you made the real beauty queen, and they got wigs.
You don't know what's in my program until you pay $99.95 a month. Let's go, man. It's starting to get ridiculous. I'll check y'all brothers next time.
All right, y'all.